Just to remind all of you that after the completion of 11th, this FDP, the first FDP that is elementary, we have another elementary, other FDP that is for advanced, and you can sign up with the same link. In the advanced version, we've covered some of the basic expertise which is needed for the same, content. There are some PLS will be included in that. So I'm requesting all of you, please spread those whomsoever will be interested. Please guide them to complete the uh, formalities. Harish sir is there.
Yes, sir, I have joined.
Islam. Good morning. Actually, sir, need no introduction because yesterday he has given first lecture on SEM, introduction of SEM. Uh, so, shall we wait for some more time? So, some are late comer, some late. Today, sir, will discuss about conformatory factor analysis and model fit indices. So, good morning, all of you. Welcome to the FDP, Atal FDP, and we are welcoming our resource person of the day, that is Dr. Mohammad Danish Kirmani, sir, and he will discuss about CFA and model fit indices. So, over to you, Danish, sir. Please begin.
Good morning, all of you. Thank you, Dr. Jamshed, for providing me another opportunity to discuss confirmatory factor analysis and model fit indices. Okay. So we will start from the point where we left yesterday. So yesterday we have already discussed that SEM has two types of models: measurement model and a structural model. To validate measurement model, we use the technique of confirmatory factor analysis. So in today's lecture, I will divide today's lecture. I think I will have to share my screen. Okay, I hope my screen is visible now. Today's lecture I will divide into two parts. First, I will discuss a theory behind confirmatory factor analysis and theory behind model fit indices. Then in the second part, I will demonstrate how to run confirmatory factor analysis in AMOS software. So let us discuss some theory behind confirmatory factor analysis to have a basic understanding about this technique. So what is CFA? What is confirmatory factor analysis? The main objective of confirmatory factor analysis is to validate the measurement model, which is the first part of running the structural equation modeling. So what we do in CFA? In CFA, we specify the observed variables, that is items in the questionnaire for each latent construct. So we discussed yesterday about latent constructs and their indicators. So in CFA, we specify which of the indicators will explain which of the constructs. For example, these are the indicators, these are the constructs. Okay, so when we start CFA, we have to specify which of these indicators will define attitude, which of these indicators will define environmental concerns, which of these indicators will define health consciousness, and which of these indicators will define intention. So before conducting CFA, we must have thorough understanding of each of the construct that we are going to to have in our study, and we must have an understanding of what indicators should be used to measure those constructs. CFA is obviously different from exploratory factor analysis, that is EFA, and there is a difference between these two techniques. We can see in this figure the difference between these two techniques. You can see in EFA, each of the indicators, they can, if they are, suppose we have two latent factors, latent constructs, and we have 6 indicators. So in EFA, we do not assign any indicator to any of the factors. Before conducting EFA, we do not assign any indicator to any factor. We are not sure how many factors will emerge and which indicator will load onto which factor. This is an exploratory study. We use EFA for an exploratory study. We use EFA when sufficient literature is not available regarding the concept. Maybe standard scale is not available. So we are not in a position to assign any indicator to any of the construct, or we may not be in a position to decide how many factors emerge from the available indicator. What we do, we just pool different indicators from different studies, and we run exploratory factor analysis. After EFA, we get our solution and we get our factors. These 6 factors may emerge in only one factor. These 6 factors may emerge in two factors or 3 factors. So we are not sure before conducting EFA. But in confirmatory factor analysis, we assign indicators to the latent factors. We have a theoretical support. From theory, we have find out that in our study there are 2 constructs or 3 constructs or 4 constructs. Suppose we find out that there are 2 constructs only, and we are also confident, or we also have an idea which indicator will load onto which factor. So we know we assign x1, x2, x3 to construct 2, x4, x5, x6 to construct 1. We do not expect that x4, x5, x6 will load onto construct 2, or x1, x2, x3 will load onto construct 1. So we are not checking this. We are just checking whether construct x1, x2, x3 will load on a construct 2, and indicator x4, x5, x6 will load on a construct 1. So this is the basic difference. In EFA, we do not assign any indicator to any factor. It all depends upon the EFA solution. After EFA solution, we have the indicators and their factors with their loading. In confirmatory factor analysis, we have a theoretical support. There is a sufficient literature available, which is helping us to assign different indicators to their underlying factors, and we just check that whatever model we have proposed, whatever indicators we have assigned to the constructs, whether the statistics support this or not. So this is the basic difference between EFA and CFA. CFA is theory driven. This is very important. This is very important that we should focus. CFA is theory driven. We should have a strong theoretical support before running the CFA. If there is no sufficient literature available, there is no standard scale available, we are designing our new items, we are designing our new scales, then we should not start with CFA. We should start with EFA. But if sufficient literature is available, standard scales are available, then we can start with CFA. The most commonly used CFA procedure has been maximum likelihood factor. There are various estimation techniques. When we run CFA, so we may have various, we have the option of using various types of statistical estimation techniques. One of the most commonly used technique is maximum likelihood factor analysis, in which the researchers tries to estimate population parameters from the sample statistics. So with the help of sample statistics, we have collected a small sample. From this sample, we are getting data, we are getting results, we are getting findings, which we are supposed to generalize for the whole population. So maximum likelihood method is considered to be the best method, best estimation method for this purpose. There are two steps in CFA. First, when we perform CFA, we to validate the measurement model, we have to follow two steps. We have to use two steps. First, we have to assess the fitness of the measurement model, whether the measurement model is the fit indices are within the acceptable range or not. And second, we have to assess the construct validity. So we will discuss both these steps. First, assessing the fitness of the measurement model. What are fitness indices? What are model fit indices? They are based on the comparison of the theory to the reality. Actually, what we are doing with the help of available theory, with the help of available literature, we have proposed some model. I have shown you, or I can show here. So this is we have assigned these indicators to the construct. We are proposing, we are assigning that that indicators attitude from attitude 1 to attitude 6 are supposed to measure attitude towards organic foods. And we are also proposing that indicators EC1 to EC5, they are supposed to measure environmental concern. HC1 to HC4, they are supposed to measure health consciousness. I1 to I4, they are supposed to measure intention to purchase goods. So this is theory. We have proposed it on the basis of theory, on the basis of standard scale. We have standard scales to measure these constructs. So we have taken these scales from theory. So we have proposed a theory, and we collect data. We distributed this questionnaire to the respondents, and what we are expecting that respondent will also consider these statement, these items as part of, as explaining this construct, these items as explaining environmental concern. So we have a theory, and when we collect data, so we compare whatever theory we are proposing, whether it stands true in the real situation. Also, for that we use model fit indices. If there is a load less difference between the theory that we have proposed and the reality, then we say fit indices are good. They are explaining the theory which we have proposed is very close to the reality. There is no difference between the theoretical framework that we have proposed and the real situation on the ground. So for that we use model fit indices. Goodness of fit indicates how well the specified model estimated covariance matrix reproduces the observed covariance. Similar thing, whatever theory we have proposed, we have some specified model. This and then we get the real data from the respondents. So if goodness of it indices means that there is no difference, or there is less difference between the theoretical model and the observed model. Sorry, if the researcher's theory is perfect, the observed and the estimated matrix will be the same. if researcher is perfect in his theory, in his proposal, he has assigned all the indicators for a construct, he has proposed right kind of relationships, then in ideal conditions, there will be no difference. There will be no difference between the observed metrics and the estimated metrics. But obviously, we do not have ideal conditions. There are always chances of committing errors. So there will always be some kind of differences. But these differences should not be very high. So for that purpose, we have some indices that we use to determine whether our model is model fitness is good or it requires some improvement. Basically, there are three types of fit indices: absolute indices, incremental indices, and parsimony indices. What is absolute indices? It measures how well a researcher's theory fits the sample data. Again, in using absolute indices, we can compare the theoretical model with the real model, with the real data, because we collect data from sample. So absolute fit indices will compare the theory with the real data. There is no comparison of a model with any other model. We just have we just have one model. We get fit indices for that model, and we compare whether the values for the fit indices are within the acceptable range or not. The example of absolute fit indices are chi-square statistics, normed chi-square, GFI, RMACA, RMR, and SRMR. Then there are incremental fit indices. In incremental fit indices, we measure how well the estimated model fit relative to some other alternative baseline model. So in incremental indices, the software compare the estimated model, the model that our study has proposed, with a model which is with the simplest possible model, which is also known as null model. So when we propose the model in software, the software will consider or will determine the simplest form of that model, and then it compare the actual model that we have proposed with the simplest possible model, and then it suggests the indicators. The indicator value suggests how well our estimated model fit in comparison to the simplest possible model in that context. So there are examples such as NFI, TLI, CFI, RNI. These are the fit indices which are used, which are in incremental indices. Then there are parsimony indices, which are used to measure, which are used to compare the competing models. What are competing models? Competing model means, suppose I had shown you some. Let me show you again. Yes, this is one model, and this is second model. So in my study, I proposed first this model, where I am not measuring the influence of EC and HC on intention. I'm just measuring their influence on attitude. But in the second model, I also proposed influence of EC on intention and HC on intention. So I have two types of model. First, this model, and second, this model. And I want to see which model is the best. I'm comparing these models, and I want to see which of these models is having the better fit, is providing the better results. So what I do, so these types of models are competing models. So for comparing these models, I will use these fit indices AGFI and PNFI. With the help of these indices, I will be in a position to suggest which of these models, whether this model or this model is a better fit. In both of these models, number of constructs are same, but only the number of relationships vary. So I will use either AGFI, values of AGFI, or value of PNFI to compare these competing value and to conclude which of these model is the better fit or is the better model. So these are three types of fit indices. The researchers suggest reporting of at least one absolute and one incremental indices. So researchers have suggested that at least we should report one fit indices from absolute category and one fit indices from incremental category. If we are using competing models, then we should report at least one parsimony indices. But today we are discussing measurement model. So in case of measurement model, we are not using competing models. We do not use competing models in case of CFA. We will not use parsimony indices. These indices can be important when we validate the structural model, but only if there are competing models. Okay, so we do not often use these types of indices. Reporting of chi-square value and degree of freedom is considered as mandatory. In almost all these studies, researchers suggest chi-square value as well as degree of freedom. Although chi-square value is very sensitive to the sample size. As we increase the sample size, chi-square value will also increase. So it basically do not give a very good idea about the fitness of the model fit. But researchers recommend that at least we should report chi-square value and degree of freedom in all these studies, but we should not generalize, we should not conclude whether the model fit is good or bad just on the basis of chi-square value. CFI and RMCA are the least affected by sample size. These two techniques are not very much sensitive to the sample size, and therefore they are highly recommended by the researchers. In almost all the research papers which are published in good journals, you will observe that researchers report CFI and RMSEA. Very common. These two techniques are very common. So according to my observations in the recently published papers in good journals, these four types of, apart from chi-square and degree of freedom, these four types, I think 5 types of indices are most commonly reported. Norm chi-square. Norm chi-square is an absolute index. RMSEA is also absolute. SRMR is also absolute. And from incremental indices, TLI and CFI. So these five indices are most commonly reported indices in the research papers in good journals. So we will discuss these 5 indices in detail. Normed chi-square. What is normed chi-square? It is ratio of chi-square to the degrees of freedom for a model. So I have mentioned that it is mandatory. It is very common to report chi-square value with their degrees of freedom. So if we divide chi-square value and degree of freedom, by degree of freedom, we will get the value of normed chi-square. Then we have root mean square error of approximation. Root mean square error of approximation, which we abbreviated as RMSEA. It represents how well a model fits a population, not just a sample used for estimation. This is sorry. This is the benefit of using RMSEA, because it is not sensitive. Generally, what other fit indices give good data as we increase the sample size. If we have large sample size, then they give good data. But root mean square error of approximation, it represents how well a model fits a population. It actually measures the fitness of the population of the data of the model with with reference to a population. It is the values that we get. If RMSEA index is good, we are getting acceptable value for RMSEA, then we can generalize our findings for the population, because this index is not sensitive to the sample size. So if we are getting a good results, we are getting good results, good values for RMSEA, then it will be easier for us to generalize for the whole population. Then another one is standardized root mean residual, SRMR. The square root of the difference between the residuals of the sample covariance matrix and hypothesized model. So it measures the residuals. Residuals mean the difference between the theory and the actual data. The theory between the observed covariance matrix and the estimated covariance matrix. The gap, the difference between these two matrices is known as the residuals. So SRMR measure is the square root of the difference between the residual of the sample covariance matrix. We have a sample covariance matrix and we have the hypothesized model. So the difference, the square root of the difference of the residuals of the sample covariance matrix and the hypothesized model is known as SRMR. It is also a good measure for model fit indices, as it is also also less sensitive to the sample size and model complexity. And one more thing, RMSEA and SRMR, they are considered to be measuring badness of fit. Most often we referred as goodness of fit indices, because for other indices we want higher values. As value increases, we say that these indices are good and our model is fitness of our model is good. But in case of RMSE and SRMR, we want low values. As value decreases, we consider that the model is good. But if the values for RMSE and SRMR is high, we say the model is not good. The fitness of model is bad. So these two indices are RMSE and SRMR are considered to be considered to represent or to explain badness of fit, because their high values are not desirable. Then we have normed fit index. It is the ratio of the difference in the chi-square value for the fitted model and the null model divided by the chi-square value for the null model. So we have null model. Null model means base model. Base model is the model where in which all the indicators are considered to be uncorrelated. All the questionnaire items are considered to be uncorrelated. So whenever we propose a model, software also has its null model for that particular model that we have proposed. So it compares, it determines the chi-square value for the fitted model, the model that we have proposed, and chi-square value for the null model. And the ratio of the difference in the chi-square value for the fitted model and the null model. First software calculated the difference of the chi-square value of the fitted model and the null model. Then it find out the ratio of the difference of the chi-square value of the fitted model and the null model and divided by the chi-square value of the null model. So that the value is known as norm fit index, NFI. Then there is Tucker-Lewis index, TLI. It compares the normed chi-square values for the null and the specified model. So the difference between norm fit index, NFI and TLI, here the software calculate the difference of the chi-square of the specified model and the null model, and it find out the ratio. But here in TLI, the software just compare the norm chi-square value for the null value, null and specified. Here and in NFI, only chi-square value was considered, but in TLI, normed chi-square. Normed chi-square means the ratio of chi-square and the degree of freedom. So it is considered as the better fit than the NFI because it is considering normed chi-square value, whereas NFI considered chi-square value. So chi-square value is sensitive, as I have already told you. Chi-square value is sensitive to the sample size. Norm chi-square is less sensitive to the sample size, and here it is also comparing null value and the specified null model and the specified model. So to some extent, it also takes into account the model complexity. So this indicator TLI is less sensitive to the model complexity. The values will be less sensitive to the changes in the complexity of the model. Then we have CFI. It is an improved version of NFI. It is not sensitive to the model complexity as well as to the sample size. So greatest advantage of CFI that it is not sensitive. It is neither sensitive to the model complexity, and it is nor it is sensitive to the sample size. And that is the reason we use CFI is the most commonly used indicator for the model fitness. So now what should be the accepted values for these model fit indices? For norm chi-square, researchers suggest that if value is less than 3, then it is a good fitness. But if value is less than 5, still we can accept the model fit. It is acceptable model fitness. But if value is less than 3, then model fitness is good. For RMSEA, if its value is greater than 1, then model fit is bad. If it is between 0.5 to 1, we consider it as moderate fitness, neither very good nor bad, but we can accept it. If it is less than 0.5, then it is a win-win situation. We will accept, we will say that the model fitness is good. For our SRMR, the value should be less than 0.08. If it is more than 0.08, we will not accept the model. For CFI, if value is greater than 0.95, then model fitness is good. But if it is greater than 0.90, if it is between 0.90 and 95, we can still accept the model. But the best situation is when we get the value greater than 0.95. Similar values for TLI. 0.95, it is the best situation. Our model fit will be good. But we can still accept if the model fitness is between 0.90 to 0.95. These are the references from where I have taken this information. So this is the first step, that we have to find out the model fit indices of the measurement model, and on these basis we will either accept, we will either consider model fit as good or acceptable or not acceptable. Another criteria, another step in the measurement model validity using CFA is to assess the construct validity. What is the meaning of construct validity? The extent to which a set of measured items actually reflects the theoretical latent construct they are designed to measure. If we talk about the definition of validity, so what is validity? Validity means how well the indicator items are measuring what we expected them to measure. So construct validity measures the extent, measure the degree to which a set of measured items actually reflects the theoretical construct. We are coming back to our example, our indicators. So I'm expecting that these 6 indicators will measure attitude towards organic foods. So what is construct validity? Construct validity will tell me how well these 6 items are actually measuring attitude towards organic foods. I have some indicators of construct validity. On the basis of value of those indicators, I will conclude whether these indicators are actually measuring attitude towards green organic foods or not, or how well they are measuring this construct. So for that purpose, I measure construct validity. There are 2 types of construct validity. One is convergent validity, and the another one is discriminant validity. Again, what is construct validity? Convergent validity. Convergent validity means these items are supposed to measure attitude towards organic foods. So these 2 items should have high correlations or high associations with the attitude towards organic foods. They should have high consistencies. All the items should be very consistent with each other because they are measuring the same construct. So when we determine the degree of consistency, the degree of association between these 6 items which are measuring the same construct, then we call it convergent validity. They are actually converging at a point. All these items, what I expect, that all these 6 items that I am supposed to measure attitude towards organic food, they should converge at a point. They should converge at a latent construct. They should share some common variance, and that common variance should help me to determine attitude towards organic foods. This is convergent validity. What is discriminant validity? Discriminant validity means now suppose these 6 items I am expecting to measure attitude towards organic foods, but I am not expecting these items to measure environmental concern. So I expect that these 6 items should not link to or should not associate in any way to environmental concern. They should be different to environmental concern, or we can say that the constructs attitude towards organic food, environmental concern, the indicators which are measuring these 2 different constructs should not have anything in common between them. The construct AT1 should load with attitude towards organic food, but it should not have any association, any linkage, any relation with environmental concern. The indicator EC1 is supposed to measure environmental concern. It should have high association with environmental concern, but it should not associate, it should not link in any way to attitude towards organic foods. So this is I measure with the help of discriminant validity. If I get good results for discriminant validity, then I can say that the 6 items of attitude towards organic foods, they do not have any relation with the other latent constructs. They are not correlating, or they are not having any shared variance with the other 3 constructs. But if I am not getting acceptable values for discriminant validity, it means that the item that I am supposed to measure attitude towards organic foods, some of these items may be having some kind of relationship, some kind of association with environmental concern and other 3 constructs. So I should get to validate my measurement model, I should get acceptable values for discriminant validity as well as for convergent validity. For convergent validity, there are 3 indicators. We use 3 indicators to determine whether our data is reflecting acceptable convergent validity or not. First and simple is factor loadings. We determine factor loadings, and we expect that the indicator that are supposed to measure measure a latent construct, they should have high loadings for that construct. So if factor loadings are high, then it reflects high convergent validity. Generally, in ideal situation, we expect that factor loadings of indicators with their underlying latent construct should be higher than 0.7. Then we also determine average variance extracted, which we abbreviated as AVE. It is actually mean variance extracted for the items loaded on a construct. So each indicator has some kind of variance. So we calculate the mean of that variance for each of the items, and we call it average variance extracted, or EVE. So for each factor, each latent construct, EVE is calculated for each latent construct, and it should be greater than 0.5. Then we calculate construct reliability, CR. It is also known as composite reliability. It is computed from the square sum of factor loading for each construct and the sum of the error variance terms for a construct. So here loadings for each construct, loadings of each item for each construct are taken into account, and also error variance is also taken into account. So though it is the sum of squared sum of factor loadings and the sum of the error variance for each factor, and we calculated it. We add sum of the factor loading and sum of the variance, and we call it construct reliability. So it should be greater than 0.6. So for convergent validity, if we are having high loadings, if we are having AVE values greater than 0.5, if we are having construct reliability, CR values greater than 0.6, then we call that our construct, that our latent variables have convergent validity. Then we determine discriminant validity. Discriminant validity is square root of average variance AVE. We determine discriminant validity by taking into account square root of AVE and inter-construct correlation. The square root of AVE should be greater than inter-construct correlations. This is a very traditional method. It has been in use for the past few decades. It was suggested by Fordner and Lacker in 1981. So since then, this method to determine discriminant validity has been widely used. But recently, in a study which was in a research paper which was published by Hensler et al. 2015. They have suggested a modern method, a new method of discriminant validity, which is HT-MT ratio. So this method is they have suggested that this method is a better method than this square root of AVE method for the purpose of determining discriminant validity. So this is all theory which we use in CFA. We have different types of model fit indices to determine the goodness of fit, and we have different indicators of convergent validity and discriminant validity to assess the validity of the measurement model. This is all theory. Up to this point, if you have any doubts, you can clear. Then we will we will proceed to demonstrate how to run a measurement model or CFA in MOS. Up to now, if any doubt, you can discuss.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I have one question, sir. Like you told that if we have predetermined scale or pre-established scales, then
Yes.
we can go for confirmatory factor analysis. Suppose,
Yes.
sir, I prepare my questionnaire and that includes items from the predetermined scales, and I am including some new items in that scale.
Yes.
So should I proceed with confirmatory factor analysis, or should I also take into consideration exploratory factor analysis?
Yes. Okay, Rahul. If you have added new items in the standard scale, then it is no longer a standard scale because you have modified the scale. So for that purpose, if you are you adapted a standard scale and you realize that you can add one or two items which may be important in the context in which you are doing your study, then sorry, then you add some few items, and then it become a new scale. It is no longer remain a standard scale. So you should now go for scale development process first, and which require you to use EFA to start with EFA.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, then we are moving for our measurement scale. So first we should start with yes. So suppose we should have to properly understand the analysis part. We should have some hypothetical situation. Suppose we are conducting a study on organic foods. We want to determine intention to purchase organic foods. Yes, is my okay. Sorry, I forgot to share my screen. Yes. Okay. So suppose this is a model that we want to validate. We want to determine the factors that can influence intention to purchase organic foods. And we have three factors: attitude, environmental concern, and health consciousness. We have proposed this model with the help of theory that is available in the already published research. So the first thing that I do, I adapted a scale to measure attitude. I adapted a scale to measure environmental concern. I adapted a scale to measure health consciousness, and I adapted a scale to measure intention to purchase organic foods. These four constructs, and I adapted standard scales from previous studies to measure these four constructs. Now I want to validate because although we are adopting a scale from the previous studies, but the context is changing. Suppose the scale which I adapted for attitude towards organic foods. Suppose I adapted this scale from a study which was conducted in USA. Now I am conducting the study in the Indian context, and there are differences. So I cannot be sure that this scale will remain standard or remain as it is in the Indian context too. So I will have to check whether these items are actually loading on the factor attitude towards organic food or not. All the items will load, or some of the items will load. Well, there may be some changes due to the change of context. The respondents of USA are different. The situations in USA are different, and the respondents of India are different. So whenever we are changing the context, although we are using a standard scale, but there some changes may arise. So for that purpose, we should validate it. So I will have to run the measurement model. So in measurement model, so I will use Amos first. I should start with Amos. Sorry, new. Yes. So before going to Amos, I should have data in the SPSS file. Yes, I have data in this SPSS file. You can check, because we cannot use Amos without SPSS. These softwares are complementary to each other. So SPSS is the base, and Amos to use Amos we need an SPSS. We need a SPSS file. So here I will have to mention my constructs, my indicators. For EC there are 5 indicators, EC1 to EC5. For HC there are 4 indicators, HC1 to HC4. For intention there are 4, I1 to I4, and for attitude there are 6, at ATT1 to ATT6. This is data. The data I had collected from 392 respondents, which is a very large sample size considering the number of indicators. There are 19 indicators, and I have 392 respondents. It means that I am complying with the 15:1 ratio. The data is in fact more than 15:1 ratio. So now I have this SPSS file. Now I will draw my measurement model here. I can use this to I will click here, draw a latent variable or add an indicator to a latent variable. I will click on it, and I will draw a latent variable with its indicator. So this circular part represent latent variable, and suppose I am drawing for attitude towards organic food. It has 6 indicators. So I will click here 6 times. Whenever I click, each time I click, I will add an indicator. So once I click, I had 1 indicator, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Then I can choose this option, rotate the indicators of a latent variable. I will click here, and I can rotate it by clicking on the latent indicator. I can click it, and I can move it a little bit. Oh, sorry. First, I will have to select it, and then, sorry, I will choose this move objects, and I can move it so that we have enough space for other indicators. Then with the help of this icon, I can deselect all objects. Now again, I will draw for environmental concern. Again, I will choose this icon. I will drag it to form a circle. And then there are 5 indicators. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I will rotate it. And I will move it a little higher. We can also sorry. Yes. Then health consciousness, I have 4 indicators. Again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I will rotate it. And I will move it here. And in the last, intention. Again, I have 4 indicators. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I will rotate it. Okay. Now we will have to name first the latent variable and then the observed variable. So this is the first one has 6 indicator. It means we will have to name it as attitude. Second one is environmental concern. We can just write EC and health consciousness and then intentions.
Sorry, sir. Sorry for interrupting. One question from my side, sir. Is it necessary to align all the indicators in one line?
No, it is not necessary. You can have your results if it is not aligned in one line, but it looks good.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So now we will name our observed variables or indicators, and we should be careful here because the coding the naming should be same as we have mentioned it in the SPSS file. So here the first indicator for attitude is ATT1. So we should write here ATT1. Otherwise, when we run the CFA model, it will not accept. ATT2, ATT3, ATT4, ATT5, ATT6. For EC, the labeling is AC1 to AC5. So we should write here same EC1, EC2, EC3, EC4, EC5. For HC, it is HC1 to HC4. We should write here HC1, HC2, HC3, HC4. For intention, it is I1 to I4. So we should write here I1, I2, I3, and I4. So we have mentioned the names of or labels of our observed variables or indicators. Now these are error terms. So we will have to name it as well, label it as well, label them as well. So there is no need to write here one by one. We are having a plugin here to name these error terms. We should select plugins, and on plugins we should select name unobserved variables. As we click on it, we will have the labels for each error term. You can see E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have labels for each error terms as well. Now, before going for estimating in the CFA model, we should select all the latent variables, and we should draw covariances with them. So here we have draw covariances to determine whether that these latent variables should not have high covariances. So to check this, we add covariances between these latent items, latent constructs. Now we will go to this analysis properties. In estimation, we select, there are many options: maximum likelihood, generalized least square, unweighted least square, scale free, asymmetrical distribution free, estimate means and intercepts. These are many options. We select maximum likelihood because it is with this method it is very easier to generalize the results for the whole population. So that is why this method is most commonly used. Then we go to output. What output we want? So we will click on standardized estimates. We will click on squared multiple correlations, and we will click on modification indices. What is the importance of modification indices? That I will discuss later on. So here we will click on modification indices. We can change here. We want modification indices which are more than 20. Okay. And then this much we have to do here. Then we will have to import the data. We will click here, select data, file name, and we will go to a place where we have the data file. So I am using this data file, edited data 392. I will select it and I will click on OK. Then to run this model, we will select this calculate estimates, this icon, calculate estimates, and we will click on it. Yes, before running, before getting the results, the MOS file will ask you to save it. So I am saving it as sample CFA 3. Save. Okay. Now we have got the model has run, and we have got the results. You can click on this view the output path diagram icon. Okay. So you are getting the values. These are unstandardized estimates, but we are more interested in standardized estimates. So we have got these values. These are actually loadings, standardized regression weights, which are also known as loading. So you can see the loadings are fairly high. You can to check, you can also move these because sometimes it is not clear to see. So you can, by clicking on this icon, move parameter values. You can also move these values to see them clearly, to make it more clear. Okay. And these are covariance values, not very high. Okay. So, but first of all, we are interested in checking the model fit indices. So by clicking here, view text, we will get an output file. So we will click here, view out text, and we will check model fit. Cmin by df. Cmin by df is our normed chi-square. If we correlate it with our table, which was mentioning the acceptable value. Yes, norm chi-square. If it is less than 3, it means our model fit is good. If it is less than 5, still we can accept. Here we
Dr. Danish,
Yes, ma'am.
sir, there are some queries, I suppose, that someone has raised. Could you please handle it?
In the chat box.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Not in chat box. That is on open queue. They raise the hands if it is
Okay.
visible.
1 minute. I'm not able to see this.
Akash, do you want to ask certain
Yes,
thing? Yeah, please ask. Akash. See, if you raise your hand, it means you are asking some question. If you don't have question, then please, don't raise your hand. So please put your hand down. Bhakta Bandhu Das, do you want to ask something? Professor Bhakta Bandhu Das, do you want to ask something? I think that is, I'm requesting the participants to please raise the hands only when you are actually needed to ask certain thing, and please write the things on the chat box. That would be very convenient. Thanks. Professor Dhanish Kishmani, please begin. Please,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Okay. So we can see here our value for norm chi-square, C min by df is 6.245. So if we compare here, it is greater than 5. So it means there is a problem in this index. Similarly, if we see TLI, it is less than 0.90. CFI is also less than 0.90. However, it is close to 0.9. And if we see RMSE value, it is 0.116. So it is greater than 0.1, greater than 1. So if greater than 1, we consider it a bad fit. So there is a problem. So there is a clear problem with our modification, model fit indices. We cannot accept this model in the current form. So what we can do? We should try to modify this model with the help of certain parameters. First, we need to check modification indices. Okay, in modification indices, these are MI values, means modification indices. We have to check these values. Okay, look at this value. This is 123.564. And it is between E1 and E2. What are modification indices? Modification indices explain they determine the relationship between the variables which we have not proposed. They explain the relationship which we have not proposed. Okay, so suppose if we see E1 and E2. So in E1 and E2, we have not proposed any relationship. We are proposing that they are not related to each other. But we are getting high modification value, 123. It is a very high value. It means the software, the statistics suggest us that there's some kind of covariance, some kind of relationship between these two error terms. To reduce that, the effect of this covariance, what we can do, we can correlate it. We can covary this. We will add a double arrow to reduce the impact of covariance which is existing between these two error terms. So we will do one by one. There are many other values which we can covary. There are many values which are more than 20, but we should be careful. We can covary error terms only when they are on the same latent factor, same construct. If there is a relationship between error terms which represent two different constructs, we cannot covary them. So luckily we have E1 and E2 on the same construct, so we can covary them. and we will again run, and we will check modification indices. So we can see our indices have improved. Earlier it was greater than 6, now it is 5.289. TLI is now acceptable, 0.900. CFI is also acceptable, 0.915. RMSE is still higher than 0.1, and Cmin is also greater than 0.5, greater than 5. So again, we will see modification indices. So if we see modification indices for E12 and E13, it is 30.106, and E2 and E3 102.184, E2 and E3. Okay, E2 and E3 modification indices is 102.184, but we already have added one covariance between E1 and E2. So we cannot add another covariance for E2. So we cannot do anything for this. Now we will see another value, 33.905. It is between E7 and EC. E7 and EC. We can covary an error term with another error term, but we cannot covary an error term with the indicator variables or any latent construct. So although this is a high value, but we cannot do anything about this. Now the next highest value is 30.106 for E12 and E13. Now we will see, yes, E12 and E13, they both are error terms and they both are on the same construct. So we can add one covariance here, and we will run again. Now we will check. Okay, Cmin is close to 5, but it is still higher than 5. TLI and CFI are good. RMSE is still 102. Now we will again check modification indices. 10 and 11, 20.623. 10, 11, 20.623. Again, and again we will check model fit. Good. Now we are getting Cmin by DS less than 5, which is acceptable. TLI is greater than 9.9. CFI is greater than 0.9. RMSE is still 0.1. So it is still problematic. Okay, now what we can see, I think there are nothing we can do with, there is value of 24.437 between E11 and E18, but I think E11 and E18 are different factors. 8 and 11 are same factor, but 11 is already involved in a covariance with 10, so we cannot do anything. 2 and 3, it is already involved. So with regard to modification indices, we cannot do anything now. Now we will see estimates, and we will see here the standardized regression weights, which are actually factor loadings. So we will check here factor loadings. So if we see here, although factor loadings greater than 0.7 are desirable, but in normal, if we are getting good modification indices, model fit indices, then we accept factor loading which are greater than 0.5. But here we are not getting good model fit indices. There are problems with regard to some model fit indices. So what we can do, we can check model factor loading which are less than 0.7. So here we can see for attitude 5 and attitude 4, factor loading is 0.04. It is less than 0.7. and for EC2 and EC3 it is less than 0.7. So we can remove these items one by one, and we will check whether our model fit indices are improving or not. So first we can remove if 84 and 85, 884 or 885, which have the same factor loading 0.604. So since 885 is involved in a correlation covariance, so first we will, because these two have same factor loadings, we will first delete and check 884, and then we will then calculate estimates, and we will check our values again. Much improvement. C min by DF 4.181, it has improved. TLI 0.31, 0.943. RMSEA, it is less than 0.1. Now it is 0.90. So our model has improved, and the values are within the acceptable range, but still it can improve further because we are getting acceptable range, but we are not getting good values. Good values is when Cmin is less than 3, TLI and CFI is greater than 0.5, and RMSE is less than 0.08. So still there is a scope for improvement. So as a researcher, we have to make this decision whether we want a very good model fit indices. For that we will have to delete some. We may have to delete some indicators, or we can do with acceptable model fit indices. So what I recommend that if we are getting acceptable model fit indices, then we should not unnecessarily delete the items, because it will suggest that the our theoretical framework was weak, and that is why we are deleting the indicators. So if we are getting acceptable model fit indices, then in order to improve it further, we should not unnecessarily delete the indicators, because we are getting acceptable limits, we are getting sufficiently high loadings, so there is no need to delete indicators further. But before reaching any conclusion, we must also check must check construct validity also. So here we have the option, we go to plugins, and we can click on master validity. When we click on master validity, yes, we are getting this table. Okay. So as I told you that CR is construct reliability, its value should be greater than 0.7. So here we are getting, for all the construct, we are getting good values. It is greater than 0.7. So there is no problem with CR. It is sufficiently high. For AVE, average variance extract, the value for each construct should be greater than 0.5. So no problem, we are getting values for all the construct greater than 0.5. For discriminant validity, what I suggested that the square root of AVE should be greater than the inter-construct correlations. So these values, the first value in these columns from attitude to intention, the first value represent the square root of AVE. 0.827 is actually the square root of 0.684. 0.754 is the square root of this. 0.905 is square root of this. This is the square root of this. So these are square root of AVE. It should be greater than inter-construct relationship. These are inter-construct correlations. This is the correlation between EC and attitude. This is the correlation between HC and attitude. This is the correlation between intention and attitude. This is the correlation between HC and EC. This is the correlation between intention and EC. This is the correlation between intention and HC. So what is the suggestion? What is the recommendation? That the square root of AVE should be greater than inter-construct correlation. So if we consider attitude, this is square root of AVE, it is greater than inter-construct correlation of attitude with other constructs. So there is no problem. We are okay with it. But if we see here, this is inter-construct, this is square root of AVE for EC, 0.754. And this is correlation of EC with HC and intention. This value is less than 0.842 as well as it is less than 0.786. It means square root of AVE is not greater than, it is smaller than the inter-construct correlation. It means there is a problem with this construct and we are not getting good results for discriminant validity as far as environmental concern is concerned. Then HC, again, this is a square root of AVE for HC. This is 0.905 and this is correlation of HC with intention. It is 782. Again, there is a problem for discriminant validity with regard to health consciousness. So it means that we are having problems with EC and HC vis-a-vis their discriminant validity. So we have to do something to remove this problem. So we again go back to our estimates and we will check, because we have problem with EC first. We will check the loadings of EC 738, 896, 623 and 663. So EC3 has the lowest loadings 0.623 and it is obviously less than 0.7. So we may consider it deleting to improve our data. Okay. So again we will run it. Again we will check master validity. Okay. Okay, using this plugin is having some problem, so we will use another method. This is test. Actually, for running the master validity, we have to add a plugin for running this tool, which is available in a website created by James Gaskin. So we download that tool from that website and we add plugin in the Amos software. So it create sometimes it run well, sometimes it may create problem. So first when I use it first, it run well, it provided good results. But now I'm trying to run it again. It is causing some problem. So we have another option. We have an Excel file which is also created by James Gaskin. We can check master validity here as well. So what it is suggesting that we should paste correlations and paste standardized regression weights. So we will go to estimates, scalars, and we will click on correlation. We will copy this table, copy, and we will paste it here. Now we will again go to our output file. We will click on regression weight, standardized regression weights, and we will copy it. And we will click paste. Okay. And then we will click on it to calculate. Okay. So you can see that the problem associated with HC has removed, but we have still we have some problem related to discriminant validity for EC. It means that we will have to again check the factor loading for EC for each indicator. So again we will check estimates. Now in EC there are 4 items which we have, and for EC2 the factor loading is still less than 0.7. So we may consider it deleting EC2. Okay. So we will click on EC2, we will delete it, and we will run it again. Okay. Then again, we will do the same. We will go to correlations, we will copy it, and we will reset, and we will again check. We will go to regression wave, we will copy, and we will again okay, some problem still exists. So now we will see what we can do now. We may again check for modification indices because we removed it 18 and 19, 20.593. We can see 4. The error terms in EC is 11, 8, 7. 3 error terms we have. Eight and 11. Yes, 8 and 11 we can add a covariance here and we will run it here. We will again copy and paste correlation and regression wave. Okay, no problem. Further intensify. It is also suggesting covariance between 18 and 19. Let us add a covariance between 18 and 19. Okay, so as we can see now, because after adding this covariance, our results were worsened. So I think we should remove this covariance, and we should now check our model fit indices, which are coming good. RMSE is also good. If we see estimates, this item has low loading. So we can check it here. We can delete it. Attitude 5. Okay, so you can see here that we are not getting good discriminant value for EC. It is still we have done what we can do. Everything we can do, we have done. We have checked modification indices. We have checked estimate. We have deleted some items. We have only remained with 3 items in EC. And if we delete one more item there, then it will create problem, because we should have at least 3 items. In fact, here et al has suggested that we should have more than 3 items for measuring each construct. So if we the value may improve if we further decrease one of the item, but it will not be a good measure of a latent construct. So as a researcher, at this point, you will have to decide what you should do, whether you should not consider EC in your model. You should delete it because it is not getting good results, and in your final model you will have only three construct: intention, attitude, health consciousness, and you will remove environmental concern, because it is not giving you good results. It is not providing you good discriminant validity. It is the EC is not is the items which are measuring EC. They are not they are cross loading onto other factors also. So this factor is creating some kind of problem, and it is impacting the validity of the measurement model. So as a researcher, this is where the experience, where the knowledge of researcher matters. As a researcher, at this point of time, you will have to decide whether you should delete it, whether you should proceed without EC, because it is impacting your measurement model. But you should, whatever decision you are taking, you should have a justification. You will have to justify why you are statistics suggesting you to delete environmental concern as a construct from this model. So you will have to redesign your study, or you may go for further. You may go for you may start from the first point. You will have to again consider indicators that you have taken for measuring EC, because there are problems. There is a problem related to indicators that you have taken. So as a researcher, you will have to decide at this point of time, either you can delete this construct, and you must have a justification for this, and you can proceed further with the remaining 3 constructs because they are providing you good results. Or if you consider that you cannot proceed further without environmental concern, it is a very important construct for your study, then you will have to redesign your study. You will have to reconsider the item that you have taken to measure environmental concern, or you will have to collect additional data, new data. So that decisions will be taken by you at this stage, because as you can see, the results are not very encouraging for environmental concern. So this is where the experience of researcher, the knowledge of the researcher matters, and the decision that you will have to take at this point, because we have tried everything that can improve the parameters for the construct EC, but we are not getting the right kind of results. So now the decision will have to be made by the researcher, either to delete the construct and proceed for structural model with a fair justification, or to collect additional data, or to redesign the construct go for expert opinion, seek their opinion, explain them that I'm not getting the result from these items for EC. So what can I do? Whether I should add new? It may be possible that the skill that you have adapted from a different context, it may not be fit well in your context. That is why the results are not encouraging. Results are not good. So you may have to add, as someone has asked in this lecture also, that whether we can add some items or not, or if we are adding new items, what we can do. So it may be possible that the skill that you have adapted, it may have some items which do not fit well in your context. So either you will have to delete those items, you may have to modify those items, or you may add new items, and that is why you are not getting good results. So at this point, you will have to decide if environmental concern, environmental concern is very important for your study. Then you will have to decide whether to add. You can seek opinion from experts, from researchers, from researchers who have experience in examining this construct, and you can take their opinion. What you can do to improve this construct, to improve results from this construct. They may suggest you to add new items. They may suggest you to delete some items which are already there. They may suggest you to change the language of the items. So this is how you can run CFA. You may face some problem. You may improve. I have told you how you can improve your model fit indices, how you can improve your construct validity. Sorry. If the results are not encouraging, what you can do. So this is how CFA can be run in AMOS. So if you have any questions, you can discuss. Hello, Dr. Jamshed.
Yes, Dr. Danish.
Yes. Do we have any queries?
I hope they must have some kind of queries. So don't you have any query? You got all the things actually. The moment we are asking you to just do something on this CFA thing, it will be done properly, right? So there is one question in the chat box. I don't know if Swati is here or not. Swati, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So you still have that question or not?
Yes, sir. So my question is, when after doing all, like setting all my variables in MOS, when I came to like running the MOS, my standardized estimate is not coming, and the error which displays is it says that one of my variable is invalid and it carries invalid character. So, sir, how to resolve this problem? Can you please explain?
Yes, Dr. Danish.
One of your variables is invalid.
Dr. Danish, she has posted the question in the chat box also. So
Okay. So after completing all these steps, my model don't run. It says variable X is unobserved variable and can't be put in square. How to resolve this? Actually, what you are doing, as I told you, that these are the rectangles, these are the squares, where you put the questionnaire item, the indicator variables. Okay, the labeling should be same. So as I show you, because for example, ATT1. So for indicator 1 for attitude, I use the same label, ATT1 in SPSS file and ATT1 here. So the labeling should be same as you have done it in SPSS file. So might be you are not using the same label. It is saying a variable x is unobserved variable and can't be put in a square. So you should check that whether whatever variable you are putting in the square, in the rectangle, it should have the same variable name. It should have the same labeling as you have done in SPSS file.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else who is having question? Dr. Danish, I had one question actually.
Yes.
In the last thing we were talking about master validity, right?
Mhm.
So we were just working a lot actually, and then we were too much worried about one say factor, and then we were trying to improve the indices of that. So can't it be happen that if we have say one factor with some say not a good say model fit indices, so can't we just proceed with one factor having low loadings or say one factor with a very bad say model fit indices?
Yes, if we are not having good, we are having good model fit indices. Suppose 3-4 model fit indices are good, but one of them is not giving us good results. Then we may proceed. But as far as discriminant validity is concerned, I think it is very important. What does it mean that if you are not getting good values for a construct as far as discriminant validity is concerned, that it is suggesting that this construct is having some kind of association with other constructs present in the study. So it may cause problem when we run a structural model. So in case of discriminant validity, if we are not getting good results, so we should try to improve it, and we are not able to improve it, then I think we should not consider this factor for further analysis.
That means to have a proper say discriminant validity say results, it is very necessary, right?
Yes, that should be there.
That was my question. Anyone else who is having any kind of question? No, I don't think they have any kind of question. So I think
Actually,
Dr.
good learning will be happen when they have collected the data and they actually analyze their data.
Yeah, I
That will
understand
that
that.
will be very useful for them.
Mhm. Right. So Dr. Jamshed, we can just conclude, right? नहीं अभी तो फिलहाल नहीं. So thanks a lot, Dr. Mohammed Danish Kimani. We had a wonderful experience with you because if you talk about CFA or say SEM, it has become a very important thing if we talk about in the current scenario. So I hope we all actually learn a lot from you. And then we expect that we'll be having more, say, sessions like this in the future too.
Thank you. Sure, Dr. Azhar. We will.
Okay, take
Okay,
care.
Dr. Azhar and Dr. Jamshed. Thank you very much, and thank you, participants.
Take care. So I'll be sharing the feedback from in few seconds. Before that, what we need say three persons, right? We need three guys actually for tomorrow's sessions to introduce the resource person actually. So I expect that just you can come up with three names actually. Anyone actually interested who would like to just introduce the resource person for tomorrow's sessions?
Sir, may I?
Rahul, you are done. We expect some new faces actually.
Okay, sir.
Renika, do you? She's doing. Okay, Renika is doing. Any new names actually?
Sir, I can be there for morning session if you allow.
Yeah, sure. Swati for the morning session. Good.
Yeah, Asad, this is Renuka.
Yeah, Renuka.
I can take it afternoon 2:30 tomorrow afternoon.
So you're not taking today's sessions.
Today's session you want to do? No. I'm Dr. Renuka Pedredla from
Okay,
Deepak.
okay. Okay, okay, no issue.
Tomorrow afternoon. Okay.
Tomorrow's afternoon,
Yeah.
2:31.
Yes.
Okay. We need one more name for the second session, 11:15. Swati and Renuka, please drop me a message in my say WhatsApp number so that I can share the resource person profile as well as the photo.
Sure, sir.
Mhm. And then one more name, please. Come on.
Can we on the camera? Actually, since we have started on Tuesday, we have not actually interacted with each other. So it would be better if we all can open the camera and we can actually see each other. So that would be wonderful because it is one of the mandatory requirements from the the responsible body that we need to take a screenshot of the all the participants with the camera and name presence. So I'm requesting all of you, if you could do that, then it will be very helpful for all of us.
Excuse me, Dr. Asad.
So
Asad,
we are missing
here.
we are missing many. So please, I'm
Dr. Asad,
requesting to
can
all of
you
you.
hear me?
Dr. Okas.
Yeah, I just wanted to know that since tomorrow is Friday,
Mm-hmm.
so and the schedule for the FDP is the very same.
Yes, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
So look, that will be a little. Don't you think that will affect the 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 people who will be going for prayers and everything?
Yeah.
Yes, I got it. So I'll just work out on all that thing. And then I'll just
Yeah.
we will just work out on that thing, and then we'll just communicate. Fine.
Yeah. Yeah, if it is possible that you give a extended break after the first one, or there's a mid
Mm-hmm.
break between the second one. I don't know, matlab, I don't know exactly how it
We will
should
just
be, but
we'll
that
try
was
to
just
just
my
work out.
concern that. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thank you, doctor.
So again, we are waiting for just one more name for tomorrow's session.
Please on your cameras. I can understand you all are in the teaching fraternity and you know the importance of the camera presence because any giving such a beautiful performance to all of us. So I'm saying to you, these all will be recording and that will go to the responsible body. So please understand the importance of this. I can understand that many of us are understanding that the importance of that thing. Please open your cameras. Still missing many of you. Still missing. No issue. No issue. Excuses are granted actually, but we have more population than the thing which will come in the camera. So some more cameras will open, then the things will be complete. Some more people will open the camera, then the things will be open. So, okay. And please on the light. See the light. Light should be coming on your faces because the faces are disappear if if the camera is off, not convenient. So see the light. I don't want to call the names whose cameras are not open. So please open. I'm requesting, please open the camera. If it is possible, please open for just a few minutes. It's not for long hour. It's just for a few minutes, and at least we can see each other.
Sir, it is
Maybe
not
tomorrow.
to have a photograph. I have to organize programs, FDP, sir. You have to take a snapshot. That's all. You need not
Yeah,
take
that's
photograph. It's not mandatory. Sorry, AICT rule does not say so. It's just for your information. I'm just informing you. Yeah.
actually the sample format. Yes, Srivastava sir. Actually, the sample format they have.
You just take the screenshot. I have done also, sir. Recently
Okay.
also done about a week back, FDP. So it's not necessary that everybody's photograph should be there. You have to just take a screenshot because everybody's snapshots are available, sir.
Yeah. Screenshot
Yeah.
is also only there.
Yeah, that is
What I am saying.
no. I'm just suggesting that don't insist that everybody should show your face, this, that. It is their prerogative, sir. You are violating the rules. Yeah, I'm just informing you for your information.
Sir,
I thought let me
Srivastava sir.
give you the information. Please don't feel bad about
Okay.
it. But this is the
No,
reality.
no, I'm not feeling. I'm
Yeah.
not feeling bad. I'm give me a moment to
Right.
put my words in front of you. Sir, in the sample they have updated the new if you will go to the AICT Atal, they have uploaded a sample report.
Sir,
Within the
I have-
sample report,
I have done only, sir. This is the new format. I'm just saying. I'm not. You
yes,
are
yes,
interpreting
it is.
it, and they have not raised any objection. Everybody has got the certificate also, sir.
No. Why not? Why not we give a better thing, whatever they are expecting? Why not we will try to give
No,
a
but you
better
cannot
thing? If it is,
insist, sir. You cannot insist.
I'm not insisting. I'm requesting, sir. I'm requesting. With a folded hand, I'm requesting.
It's just
I
a-
can.
A suggestion from my side, sir.
Okay. Sir. Thanks a lot for your.
Don't- It is your decision. So let the individual take it their own decision. Yes?
Yeah.
You have
Oh,
to
thank you.
respect their individual decisions.
I don't know.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir, for guiding us. We also require, at the end of the session, we also require your feedbacks. The feedbacks could be, you can send by mail or you can put on, WhatsApp group, and that feedback is also the part of it. So whatever the feedback you feel, you can give it to it. That there is no limit. We will try to include some of the feedback with the report. So this is the part of the thing.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Also, when we are already submitting the feedback, doesn't it come to you? We have to send it through a mail or something like that?
Yes, sir. There are two type of feedback. One is the part of the valid